Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking on the subject as if the NBA needs a new dynasty. But first, before we get into that, let us welcome the panel. First, here we got Hoop God. How are you today?
Hey man, good afternoon. Glad to be here. Another great episode. I'm ready for it.
We've got AOH. How are you today, sir?
Yo, happy to be here. Happy Sunday.
And we've got Robin. How are you? Sports and Fitness Rants.
Yo, what's up, everybody out there? Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys know the deal, man. Shout out to everybody in the panel, man. You guys know what it is, man. You guys know what time it is, man. Let's roll.
There's my line of cocaine.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
When you missed the live stream the other week, Robin, I was really tired. I'm tired today, but AOH is like I was like AOH is talking about coffee and that you're the coffee that wakes everyone up for this show.
Yo,
Anyway,
much respect,
or
man. Much
listening.
respect to you guys, man. I love being here.
Absolutely. Hoop God. The NBA has not had a real dynasty. Nobody has won multiple championships since 2020. Do you think that the NBA needs a dynasty? Do you think that's what's the problem for a lot of the viewership and entertainment? Do you think the NBA needs a dynasty?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And the reason why I'm saying that, for example, with all due respect to the 60s, since the inception of the modern NBA, so let's say circa 1979, 80, the reason why dynasties are good for the NBA, so prime example when Magic Johnson reestablished the Lakers winning culture. Okay. Now you have the intrigue of, okay, who can defeat them? Of course, they got beat by the Houston Rockets, and then 1982 they get right back there again. Right now, I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit because from the time they won their first championship, and then the Celtics ultimately won the next season. Well, what was always the discussion? When will Larry Bird and Magic Johnson? When are they going to meet up? That's the hype. It finally happens in 1984. It comes to an head, and ultimately Larry Bird wins that first matchup. Okay, they come right back because now you got two things going on. Can the Celtics defend their title? Hey, can Magic Johnson redeem himself? That's all the speculation that's talking. That's the conversation. We know what happened. Magic Johnson comes back and he usurps the tragic Johnson and wins in 1985. Okay, now can they ultimately defend their title? Well, no, they get knocked off by the Houston Rockets. Larry Bird goes back and wins again, 1987. They meet up for the final time. Like each and every time Larry Bird and Magic Johnson met up, the viewers went up. Why? Because people wanted to see who's gonna take back the throne, right? Then we'll fast forward to the Detroit Pistons. So they win. The first time they win their championship, okay, can you defend your title? Yes, they do. They go back and defend it. Now, can you three-peat? No. What happens? Michael Jordan's Bulls ultimately knocked them off. Let's move on to the Houston Rockets, another great team. They win their first championship. They come back, they repeat. Now, during the reason why I'm using the repeat and then three-peat method is, once you're defending champions, everybody is giving you their best shot. You know that when you play certain teams, especially teams that you may have beaten in your route to the championship, you're going to get their best shot. You're going to garner ratings. Ratings are good. That's what drives home the viewership. That's what gets everybody locked in because they want to see who can dethrone the champions. Much like the Bulls. I mean, we already know it's self-explanatory with them. They had 2 3-peats in the dynasty. Nobody could take them down. But I guarantee you, that first matchup between Orlando Magic and Michael Jordan's Bulls when he first came back from baseball, ratings were through the roof because they wanted to see, hey, who can ultimately take down the champs, the kings of the mountain. We move on to the modern era. The Shaq and Kobe Lakers, right? Who can take them down? When they played the Detroit Pistons, I think nobody gave them a snowball's chance because I know I didn't. They dethroned them. Now they're the champions. Detroit Pistons, they have the opportunity to repeat themselves. I mean, to repeat their title run, they get knocked out by the San Antonio Spurs. Another team that just gets left out the fray. But yes, I do believe sports dynasties are good because even if I go to football, couldn't stand the Patriots. But guess what? You were going to watch them. Why? You want to see them lose. I'll tell you another guy, Floyd Mayweather. I know a lot of people don't like him, love him, however you want to, categorize it. But people watch because they wanted to see him lose. Like I think people get caught up on it being a dynasty and everybody loving them. I guarantee you nobody from Detroit was cheering for the Bulls in the 90s. They wanted to see them get defeated. So, yes, I think dynasties are good because you need to have either the hero, can he overcome odds and continue winning, or you have someone who doesn't like him and they see him as the villain who can take down this villain that's at the top. So to sum it up, yes, I think 90s are great. I don't know if we're going to have a 90s in this 2020s. I mean, it's 2024, so I guess we still have time. But I'm just looking now like it seems like we're getting a new champion every year, and I'm not saying it's bad, but ultimately, if we don't get a repeat champ, or if we don't get like someone that can establish themselves like the Warriors did in the 2010s, I just don't know how well that's going to work out. So yes, just in my theory, yeah, I do believe dynasties are ultimately good for sports.
AOH, what do you think about that? Or what do you think about this at all?
Hoops God gave me a lot to think about there, because I was going to approach this by asking people about. I was going to compare it to this supposed need for there to be a face of the NBA, because I was going to challenge that. And I was like, why? Why does there have to be a face? You're always going to have your popular players, the people that you like the most. But I don't remember in the past it being told to us that someone was the face of the NBA. Now it seems like it's presented as though the NBA can't function unless they crown someone or name someone the face. I'm like, do you really actually have to have a face? But now, with the way that Hoops God has presented it, it's the good guy and the bad guy, the villain thing a little bit, or you are the good guy long enough that you become the bad guy, and people like with Jordan. By the time Jordan was done, I was rooting for the Jazz. I was like, all right, come on, man, give someone else a chance. And the villainization thing is complicated because that's one of the excuses I've heard given for LeBron James, even though he, as we can see, his on-court play is shit. He still, I guess, controls the media and the narrative. And so people either love him or hate him. And clearly I'm involved because I want to keep proving that he does suck. But there's a counterpoint to that. I heard that the in-season tournament game that they had to play to get into this year's playoffs was one of the lowest rated ones. So I'm not sure the villain thing is working in that particular with that evidence. But okay, I know I'll wrap it up here. Again, back to what Hoops God said. If you don't have the dynasty, then the networks don't have the opportunity to keep showing the faces of the good guy and the bad guy. So I guess from that perspective, yes, you need them to continue to be successful teams as long as you have the good guys and bad guys, or whoever is being marketed as rivals. Well, their teams need to be winning in order for the networks to be taking advantage of their existence in the league. That's kind of going out the window, though, with the way these players hop around teams. So as long as the media is willing to follow a player around and cover him, even though he's a team hopper, that sort of takes away from what was great about a dynasty, because the dynasty was associated with the players that were on that dynasty. Anyway, boy, that was a lot to think about. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, I thought those were some great points. Robin, what do you have to say about what AOH said?
And I was thinking about this topic before we came here today, and I kept coming back to one thing. When we think about dynasties, whether they're good for the NBA or not, I came back to one thing, and it was the competition. And what I mean by that is a dynasty is only as good as the competition that it's beating. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? So when we think about the dynasty in the 60s, right, with Bill Russell Celtics, oftentimes critics will try to tell you that Bill Russell's team was so superior and that, that's why he won so many championships. And yes, in fact, the Boston Celtics were a very, very great team. But the one thing that can't be denied is they played in many, many game sevens. There was a reason for those game sevens, because they were playing against other great teams and other great talent. That's one of the things that we have to remember about it. The Celtics were often being pushed against Will Chamberlain's, right? Jerry West. We think about these kinds of players that they were going against, the Bob Pettits. So that's the one thing that came back to me was the competition of these dynasties. So when we think about the Chicago Bulls, right? In contrast, people do the same thing. They'll say that Michael Jordan didn't beat anybody in the NBA Finals. That's why Michael Jordan and the Bulls were 6-0. But in fact, those of us that were there, like myself, who grew up watching this stuff, what do we always remember? That it was Michael Jordan that had to come up with the clutch plays. It was Michael Jordan that was raising his level of play in order for the Chicago Bulls to beat a lot of these teams. When you think about the talent from top to bottom of a lot of these teams that the Chicago Bulls were facing, they were not more talented than some of these teams. The difference was Michael Jordan, his leadership, the way he finished these games. That's the things we've mentioned. So the dynasty was that much greater. That's what made Michael Jordan being 6-0 so impressive. Because they weren't this crazy stacked super team that had all this talent versus everybody else. And there was no way that they were going to win. There were oftentimes that the Bulls were facing against the odds. When we think about the New York Knicks, we think about the Phoenix Suns, we think about some of the teams, the Utah Jazz. There were oftentimes when the Bulls were against the odds. And we think about the flu game. So when we think about the dynasties, it always came back to the competition for me. We think about Tim Duncan's Spurs, for example. The reason why they're respected is because the competition they were going against all of those years, even in their Western Conference. You think about Steve Nash Suns, right? The Shaq and Kobe Lakers, right? Then later on, the Kobe and Pau Gasol Lakers, Dirk Nowitzki's Dallas Mavericks, the Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s with Vlade Divac, Chris Webber, right? Jason Williams, Mike Bibby, all these players. There was a lot of competition in that Western Conference. That's what they used to talk about in those 2000s. So Tim Duncan's competition was stout. So the dynasty is respected. That's why Tim Duncan is respected. So when we think about the competition and then we think about the Golden State Warriors now, for example, what do we think about? We think about Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors and tipping the balance. But we also think about the competition. And what does that point to? LeBron James. Because once again, there was no competition for the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. So it weakens their dynasty, so to speak, and it weakens their respectability for me when we think about the dynasties and whether or not they're good for the NBA and the history. It's all about the competition. That's why Larry Bird's Celtics were respected. Magic Johnson Lakers, they were all going against each other. They were battling against each other. It's a competition.
Yeah, I think those are all some great points. For me, I'm really on the edge of it, but I think all of you brought up some great points about the dynasties. So it's great to see parity, but you think about the 1970s and about how low the ratings were, and the free agency didn't exist. Oscar Robertson got it together, at least the immediate beginnings of it. The point of it is that those ratings were in the garbage, and in the later part of the 70s, you had the ABA merging, and you had a plethora of talent there. The point of what I'm getting at is that it seems that the ratings of the 70s and the ratings of the 2020s, they're not doing as good as maybe of times in the past versus the other decades or other eras. Now, the parity is great to see, there is not one team that just has everyone's number, or at least the number to get to the end of the playoff tournament to win the championship. And so that's interesting to see if you're a basketball purist, but for the fandom aspect of it, I think it's terrible for the game. But I think to what AOH was saying with the face of the league is that people just follow, or a face, especially in the social media era, is that they'll follow one or whoever they like or whoever they want to push, the LeBron James of the world or whoever. And I think that affects kind of what Robin was saying is the competition, because a lot of these teams, they develop these super teams, or they try to assemble them to become a super team, and then they quit on them in a year or two. Mm-hmm. So I think that affects. I think that creates the I don't want to say illusion, but I think it just it stimulates the parity in the league because there's no teams aren't growing to be able to be consistent with these superstar players. The KDs, especially KD. LeBron had moved around a few times. He's been in LA a couple of years, but they still have or have had a lot of talent on that team at times. So yeah, does the NBA? I think the NBA would be better in itself with dynasties because, for one, you'd be able to root for a team in itself instead of a player, because I think that's just what it's all come down to at this point lately is let's root for LeBron James no matter where he goes, or Kevin Durant. They don't particularly care about the Cleveland or Miami or LA. They just say it's LeBron, and then that affects the entire chemistry of the league, not just with him, but with all the people that jump around the teams. With that said, because that's my perspective of it. Hoop God, can you see a dynasty emerging with some of these teams that are coming out in the next couple of years? Can you see one that you would put your finger on to say that this team is going to be a dynasty?
I want to look at it from the half glass full. So I want to be optimistic and say yes. But when you ask me a particular team, possibly Wemby, seeing that they put the right pieces around him. And the reason I'm going to say that is you need three things, especially for a dynasty. You have to have continuity, you have to have cohesion, and you have to have chemistry. And when you look back at all the dynasties, and shout out to Sports and Fitness Ranks because he made me think about something. With those 60 Celtics, they embodied all of those in addition to camaraderie. You guys got to like each other. And there's not no fake like. It's not no, you genuinely have to like the guy that's next to you, if I'm going to take a military term, because when you're in that line of fire, when the SHIT hits the fan, it's the guy to your left and to your right. It's all that matters. The guys that are beside you when you're in that foxhole. And when you look at that, because I was actually watching the Bill Russell's his docu-series of Friday night, had Basketball Jones. Hey, y'all don't judge me. And I'm looking at it like, yo, those guys generally liked each other. In the midst of all the other stuff going on, civil rights, racing, blah, 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 those guys liked each other. And you saw it because they would lift their brother up. Hey, they would cheer him on if they made a good play. All that stuff matters. And you have to have that. And with this era that we're in now, like you said, with the team hopping and the guys jumping from team to team, it's like they're trying to not just cut one step, they're trying to overskip a multitude of steps. Because when you ultimately leave one situation and go join up with another guy, you're not building that chemistry, you're not building that cohesion, you're not building the continuity. It's like you're trying to skip all of that. And you cannot do that. There's steps you have to take to get there, just like with the Shaq and Kobe thing. Kobe had to work his way up to get to Shaq's level and ultimately surpass Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel because they were in his way. And we saw what those results yielded. Just like with the Chicago Bulls. Everybody wants to bring up Scottie Pippen, and Scottie Pippen is an all-time great. Give him his just due. But please stop talking about Scottie Pippen like he's Kawhi Leonard, because Scottie Pippen has never had one NBA final series remotely close to what Kawhi Leonard did in 2019 or 2014 when he thoroughly embarrassed somebody else who's supposed to be the greatest player in this era. No, you have to take all those steps. You have to, go through that adversity and come back stronger. And right now, at first I was going to put the Nuggets up there, but just seeing how they got obliterated by the Timberwolves, it kind of made me like, all right, maybe I need to, let them get back there first and then maybe have this conversation. I thought that the Bucks could have a chance to do it, but then Giannis started showing me another side of his character that I don't particularly like too much. I don't know. Maybe he's just going through some things. Who knows? Right now, looking at it from an optimistical, like just being optimistic about it. I want to say the Spurs put the right requisite pieces around Wemby. He can establish a dynasty, because I understand that that's kind of like the new face that they're building up to. Like I'm seeing the little commercials and all that. I'm like, okay, so this is the guy they want to transition us to get away from, it's just basketball at the end of the day. Because I'm sorry, that's a bad look for sports in any sporting event. Baseball, football, no, you can't have any guy. You cannot have a guy talking like that. I want to say Curry would have been the face of the dynasty in 2022. But if he doesn't get another one, which I don't see them doing, I won't put him in that category. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, yes, I think the San Antonio Spurs coaching staff can put the right pieces around Wemby. And let's say around that 4th, 5th year, we could see him dominate. And I'm talking about dominating like Bill Russell on defense and like I would say a lesser version of Shaq on offense. That's my take on that.
Hey, Wait, what do you got to say about that?
Let's talk about the camaraderie that Hoops God mentioned on Russell's teams. How could today's players ever accomplish that? Because they're too busy worrying about getting a max contract and going anywhere as long as they get their max money. And any of you guys who've been on teams, if you've been in an organization, I'm sure you experienced this in the military. When you go through shit together, even if you didn't like each other at first, you experienced something that bonded you anyway. So these teams that went through things together and made it out the other side, of course you're going to end up liking each other better because you can relate to something that you all went through together. And with the player entitlement, you get less and less and less of that. Now, with that in mind, I also want to talk about how we define a dynasty, because really what I think you guys were talking about was there just being good competition. That's what's most important. The way that the NBA helps certain players out, you could have a dynasty today with poor competition being placed in front of them. The Knicks, we remember fondly the 90s because Jordan faced tough competition in the East on his way to facing the Jazz in the West. And the Jazz were a great opponent for them. But the Knicks aren't considered a dynasty because they never won it. But were they a great competitive team year after year? Did New Yorkers love them? Did people love seeing that matchup? They did. And that's what made the basketball enjoyable. So you don't have to be a dynasty to accomplish that necessarily. I guess it helps. With that in mind, I want to go back to what Robin said about the Warriors. The same way that the Jazz had to go through the Rockets and the Lakers and the Spurs before they faced the Bulls. Maybe what was more impressive was the Warriors and what they did before they faced the Cavs, because the Warriors ruined the Rockets' big spending moves to try and win a title. They did that to the Clippers. They did that to the Thunder. They did that to the Rockets. They took out some powerful teams on their way to the Cavs. And it's unfortunate that the Cavs in LeBron's era were able to reach the finals because the East was so shitty. And of course, the biggest hole in that argument is that the Cavs came back and won in 2016. And I'll never forgive the Warriors for that because it just threw off everything. It made LeBron be considered in a way that he shouldn't be. It gave some sort of validity maybe to the run through the East. But you saw how that series started. And that's how the whole series should have gone. A lot of bullshit happened that just changed that series. And now it's, the damage can never be erased from Cleveland winning that. Sorry, 2016 is so fucking depressing. I forgot what I'm talking about. Move on from me.
All right, Rob. What do you got to say about that?
Well,
AOH has PTSD over here.
Well, let me refresh AOH a little bit about the Golden State Warriors and some of the teams that they happened to beat in that Western Conference that he mentioned. But they did beat James Harden's Rockets. And once again, it's James Harden's Rockets. I'm not impressed with James Harden's Rockets because we all know James Harden is known for being a playoff joker. And they were up 3-2, and they should have beat the Warriors in 2018. But Chris Paul went down, and James Harden folded up because he's James Harden. But no doubt about it, man. The Golden State Warriors were a great team. This not taking anything away from them, but their run was not as impressive in the Western Conference as some of the Western Conference runs by some of the great Western Conference teams, like the Karl Malone Utah Jazz, because they also, like I said, beat the San Antonio Spurs with Kawhi Leonard, who went down from Zaza Pachulia, taking out his knee, and Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs were up 30 points almost against that 2017 Warriors team. And that was a big help for them beating that, San Antonio Spurs team. But once again, it's not taking anything away from them and the dynasty that they were. But when we think about some of the teams that Karl Malone and John Stockton would be, they would be in the 4 All-Star Lakers. They would be in, like I said, the 3 All-Star Houston Rockets, you know what I'm saying, with Karl Malone, with Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem Olajuwon. They'd be in all kinds of teams. They would be in Gary Payton and Sean Kemp's 60-win Sonics. They were going against David Robinson Spurs. They were going against legit competition, man. No doubt. But once again, let's think about what my man Hoop God was saying when he talked about the teams and guys moving around. We were focusing on that, the movement of the players. That goes to what we're always talking about. Playing for the love of the game, playing to win, playing with that competitive fire, not playing for the money or necessarily and for the fame. So these guys, like you said, they want the names. They want everybody to follow their names. But if they were playing for the winning, if they were playing for that culture, like I said, for the respect, the integrity, for that love, then they would stay together, because a lot of the teams that we played against, what happened?
Or my connection. I think I was cutting you off without knowing it because I couldn't hear you.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like I said, the teams I remember, they were so stout because they stayed together for a long period of time. These teams kept their core plays together, whether they were the role players or not. It's about the core staying together. That's why these teams were so potent, because they kept their teams together, man. Like you guys mentioned, the teams now, everybody wants the money, everybody wants the fame, and they go to these teams and ain't nothing happening. When LeBron James forms a team, you think about, when we talk about these dynasties, we talk about the Golden State Warriors, we talk about these teams. The problem for LeBron James is that he weakened his own Eastern Conference by taking the best player off of another team in his own conference. He took himself off the Cavaliers. He took Chris Bosh off the Raptors. When we think about Kevin Durant leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder, that goes to what I'm talking about. That was their stiffest competition, was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook's Thunder. Kevin Durant leaving that team and going to the Warriors essentially weakened the competition they had there. That would be like Patrick Ewing going to the Bulls, or Dominique Wilkins going to the Bulls, or Charles Barkley going and joining Michael Jordan before he went to the Suns. That's essentially what that would have been. You're weakening your own conference to get to the finals. So that's the difference between a lot of those teams from back in the day that we talked about, because these guys are playing for the money and the fame, the easy rings. It ain't as tough as some of the other teams that stayed together, that grinded out against the same teams over and over and over again. It was Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, John Starks, Anthony Mason, every single season. It was Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Kevin Duckworth, Jerome Kersey. Every single season, these guys stay together.
For the record, for anyone listening, I want to make sure people know I'm not one of those Warrior fans who think that the Warriors were the best team of all time. I do not think that. I do not think that they would have beat those 90s teams from the West that the Jazz went through. So, but so don't think that I'm one of those people. But I do think that they should have beaten the Cavs in 2016.
Yeah. Even when you look beyond the stat sheets, and I tell people this all the time, the Warriors were a small team. Those 96 Bulls, the 72 wins, they were actually a big team, because you had Ron Harper 6'6", like what, a 6'10" wingspan. Then you got Michael Jordan 6'6". He's got a 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. Like, those guys could smother you in that half court and make it difficult because they could play the passing lanes, just like the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. Who's going to stop Shaquille O'Neal? Nobody. The 87 Lakers, who's going to guard Kareem? Nobody. They don't understand that those teams are not going to allow Golden State to dictate the pace of play. They're going to make it a half-court game, and they are going to make them play defense, and they are just going to out-execute them with their high basketball IQ. All these guys today think, oh, just shooting threes. That's not basketball. That's 2K basketball. That's not actual winning basketball. So I tell them this all the time. Steve Kerr's on record of saying, we're not going to beat the 72-10 Bulls. When you got 4 guys, 1 through 4, who can switch off on everything and can move horizontally, can cut off your passing lanes, they are going to make it difficult. Like, I had to get this one guy to understand. If the Boston Celtics can hold KD to 38% shooting when he played for Brooklyn, Imagine what the Chicago Bulls are going to do to him. I said, I'm not going to say any percentage. Just take those defenders and replace them with Ron Harper, Pippen, Jordan, and Rodman. I'm gonna just leave it at that. You have to almost simplify it down to like a kernel. Like you have to be able to break it down to a kernel so they can understand. But no, I don't. That's a great team, like AOH said. But to me, it's not an organic team, because I would say an organic team was like the bad boy Pistons. You draft Isaiah, you make a trade for Lambeer, great role player. You draft Dumars, you draft Rodman. That's the core. Surround them with role players. Boom, they finally start winning. They get that admiration. Just like the Bulls. You draft Scottie Pippen. You draft Michael Jordan. You draft Horace Grant. They go through those growing pains. They start winning. It's more respected. But no, when you, again, take a shortcut, you're not going to be put up there with those greats. That's why I'm like that whole Miami venture. Okay, yeah, you could have three-peated, but a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but you had to join your competition. LeBron James robbed us seeing him go against Dwayne Wade in the playoffs, multiple playoffs. We didn't get to see him go against Chris Bosh, vice versa. We didn't get to see Steph Curry and Kevin Durant one time, but we should have seen that more. Because when you cripple the competition in your conference, then no, you can't be put up there amongst those greats. And I know they love to bring up Boston. I said, okay. But did Paul Pierce go get Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett from the East? No, they came from the West. Why? Because they couldn't win over there. The competition was too stiff. You weren't going to beat the Lakers. You weren't going to beat the Spurs. You weren't going to beat the Mavericks. So they were like, what, at best second-round teams, they go to the East, which strengthened the East, because at that time, like AOH said, yes, the East was weak. So, no, I tell them, I don't consider Boston a super team. They were a big three, but that's not a super team to me. They didn't weaken their conference. The Miami Heat weakened their conference, so no. Had they won, no, I still wouldn't put them in that category, because ultimately you join the guys that you're supposed to be competing against. Like my man Sports and Fitness Rant said. Can you imagine Michael Jordan going to the New York Knicks? I'll do one better. Shaq said out his own mouth, if I knew it was cool to super team, I'd just went to Chicago. Bruh, that's not even fair.
Gross. Gross.
That's almost like a glitch on a video game. Nobody's beating him. So yeah, I just had to sum it up with that one.
And I also think that the Warriors being promoted as one of the greatest teams ever is actually a way to compliment LeBron James. What
in a roundabout way,
the people that, yeah, they're saying, "Oh, look what LeBron had to go through." Yeah,
exactly right. That's right. That's the whole thing there with that stuff, man. I just want to make one point, man. When you guys were talking earlier, man, like we're talking about, like you think about the San Antonio Spurs, for example, they were thinking about trading Tony Parker for Jason Kidd, man. You know what I'm saying? Before Tony Parker was really, known for who he became. And these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, keeping your team together. It was a reason why the Spurs were so consistent, because they kept their core together with Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and Tim Duncan, and they always filled the guys around them. You know what I'm saying? The Matt Bonners, the Steven Jacksons, the Steve Kerrs, the Robert Ory's, the Steve Smiths. You know what I'm saying? All the other players that filled in around those Spurs teams throughout that dynasty run.
Yeah, no, and I think I want to put my 2 cents on it too. With the whole camaraderie thing, and that just builds chemistry in total. And this may have been said specifically, but I may have missed it. But the you need to have the friendship to build the chemistry. Or you don't have to be actual friends, but you need to be in the same fight. And the super team aspect, the player entitlement aspect of all of this is just totally demolished the aspect of team building and for a large part of the league, in my opinion. It's just, you come together to build this crappy puzzle that you just tear apart the next year. It just doesn't, you gotta cut the pieces the right way. You got to figure out how they fit. And you just kind of try to put a puzzle together, and then you never actually finish it because you're so worried about getting the picture, not getting the picture right.
Dart, let me jump on that if you don't mind, because
sure.
Bringing it back to what the title of today's video is do you need the dynasties? Again, with my New York Knicks example, I think as long as the competition is great year after year and you legitimately think the team has a chance to win it, I don't need to see the same team win back-to-backs or even three-peat. As long, in fact, I kind of like the idea of more people getting a title, as long as it's a legitimate battle and it's the same dudes and you have the team to get behind. And with the player entitlement, like even with Derek Lively is likable, but you know what? As soon as he has a great series, you know what the announcers are saying? Oh man, that guy's gonna get paid next year. And you have the Dallas Mavericks faced with, well, fuck, we can't afford everyone that deserves a supermax, and then the team's broken up. And as much as I want to shit on these guys for chasing the money over dedication to a team, the amount of money they're giving these guys would make even the most moral person say, well, fuck, how do I say no to that? You know, I can go buy a country in a year or two.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy an island in the South Pacific and, you know, start charging the natives.
Somebody's
taxing the
podcast.
natives. One
of the old guys' podcast was talking about how in the old days players had to worry about paying a mortgage. And so that was why they performed well. They kept their job so that they could keep their house. These guys have no idea what that even means.
Hey,
you guys are right, man. Go ahead, who got?
Oh, okay, my bad. No, I wanted to follow up a point that AOH you stated. See, that's what guys don't understand, right? When I see them always talk about this one guy led in every statistical category, right? My question is, if you're taking rebounds from your big man, and that's how your big man gets paid, that's a conflict. Why would you be down there competing with the big man for rebounds? That's his job. That's how he gets paid. But if you got one guy trying to just snatch all the rebounds, all the assists, you got all the points, all the steals, all the blocks, why do you even have teammates then if they're not going to be able to fulfill their role?
Yeah.
He single-handedly won the 2016 NBA Finals. No, no, I never mind. What were you saying there, Witch?
Nothing. I was just agreeing.
Yeah, no, and I lost what I was going to say.
Nah, I wanted to say something about what we were saying before. You guys were saying before, man. Like, but when we're talking about the dynasties, like AOH mentioned something about, like, how do we define a dynasty? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a very good question, because that's really what it comes down to when we talk about, quote unquote, a dynasty. But like you said, it goes to the competition, because this is what we're talking about, man. Like, when we talk about Michael Jordan, man, and we talk about some of the great players, what do we often talk about? Why are they great? Because they made great plays in great moments. So that's what I'm talking about with the competition into becoming a dynasty. These teams were not just beating teams that were not good. They had to make plays. Magic Johnson had to hit the baby hook with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out in that game in 1980 as a rookie. He had to make that play. When people talk about Michael Jordan, the competition that he didn't have, there was, how many plays do we talk about with Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals that he had to make for the Bulls to win those championships? He had to get the steal on Karl Malone in Game 6, and he had to hit that shot. He had to do these kinds of things for the Bulls to be successful. He had averaged 41 points a game in an NBA Finals. These are the things he had to do for the Bulls to win. That goes to the competition he was going against. That goes to these great players on these great teams. They're dynasties because those players made great plays in big moments. We think about Tim Duncan's falling down fadeaway bank shot against Shaquille O'Neal. And then right after that, you had Derek Fisher hit that shot falling out with like 0.6 seconds left. Players made great plays on these teams for them to be dynasties, man. That's what goes to the competition. Think about how that sequence went. That's competition right there. You think about the Sacramento Kings going against the Lakers and Robert Horry getting the kick out deflection from Vlade Divac and hitting the bank shot for the Lakers to win that game. These are the moments that these players make in these games, which has helped them to become dynasties. But it was because of the competition they were going against that they had to make those plays. That's what we talk about when we talk about the Golden State Warriors in the finals. When you think about, like you mentioned, LeBron James not living up to the hype, not presenting that challenge for Kevin Durant, ducking the screens, having Richard Jefferson guard him, and Jeff Green and Iman Shumpert. This was what we're talking about. Not presenting a challenge, beating them 4-1, 4-0, just getting them right out of there, man. So once again, those players came through in big moments for those dynasties.
No, I wanted to add. I remember what I was going to say because y'all were talking about the Warriors being used for LeBron to say that he's such a great player, but it doesn't make sense because although they went to the finals a bunch of times, what we're talking about completely contradicts the aspects that they were specifically a greater team than other teams. You can argue, and one thing that kills me about a lot of LeBron fans is that they'll pretend that the 2016 Warriors were the 2017 Warriors.
Right,
They're
right,
like, oh,
right.
they'll say that, oh, LeBron beat the greatest team ever. They're like the Warriors team, and then they'll go and they'll pretend that it was the same year, the same players. No, they got KD after. Now those years, those Warriors were still great teams, but they'll use that LeBron beat the 73-19 win Warriors, the greatest team of all time. I think most people, even though what's up?
A lot of that is Draymond Green's fault because as soon as he signed with Clutch Sports, he started saying that shit. No, he did.
No, that's true. Yeah, I call him Clutch Mon. He's been a plant for them. Yeah.
But it makes no sense because their argument is that LeBron beat a 73-19 win team, which is impressive, sure. But then they'll go and that team, I think most people would agree, because they didn't win the finals for one. They lost to LeBron. And then you look at the couple teams the next year, I think they won a 68 and 23 or whatever the math adds up to. That's not the right math, but 68 and 13 or 14 or whatever, 69. I don't remember what their record was, but I'm mathing early in the morning over here. Yeah, it's crazy how they go and they'll push LeBron's legacies because he's lost. You know what I mean? It makes no sense that he's great because he lost. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
What do y'all think about that with LeBron losing to this dynasty of the Warriors dynasty of the 10s?
Well, see, that's what happens when you know that this player can't overcome the adversity. Now you have to alter the standard. You have to be a spin meister and spin it into something else that has nothing to do with winning. Now you got to talk about the appearances and you got to talk about the statistical measure, all this stuff that's irrelevant. If you don't do what? Can I please quote the great Herm Edwards? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. You play to win. So if you go out there and you're a defensive stalwart like a Bill Russell, okay, that's how you play to win. Or if you're just a flat out assassin and you can just carve people up like you're like a doctor performing surgery like a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan, that's how you play to win. If you're one of the greatest shooters of all time and you have to have 4 eyes on you, creating easier shot opportunities for your teammates, that's how you play to win. I don't care about no leading in all statistical categories if you're not winning, because I call that, quote the guy from The Wizard of Oz, those are hollow stats. Those are 10-man stats. I don't care about that. Because if I turn this film on and I see that you can't hit 4 consecutive shots in a row, but yet your teammate over here who has the ability to get his shot at any moment has to come through and save you, no, I can't put you up there. So no, just me looking at it from a basketball appearance. You play to win the game. I don't care about your statistical output. The stats are after the fact, because the first thing I want to know, did you win? Because if you didn't win, I don't want to hear anything else. It's all for naught.
Come on, man. It's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Yeah.
I cannot get that quote out of my head. Like, seriously, I can't because no other sport have we ever heard that. Not even a boxer it's just boxing. I can't imagine any of the all-time greats losing. Like, let's look at, just to digress for a moment. If Sugar Ray Leonard said that about Roberto Duran, do you see how tarnished his legacy would be? But, when you have the media behind you and you have an agency who can push these narratives that I guess they think we can't see through. I mean, I legitimately think Clutch Sports, I think they really think they can manipulate people. Like, bro, what y'all are saying is it's not even convincing. I mean, we can see through that.
Look at LeBron fans, though. They clearly can be manipulated.
The standard will always be winning. Greatness is achieved through victory, not statistical numbers. Victory is what matters.
Hey, it's too bad that Nick isn't on here, because I was going to throw his boy a compliment. You know, I wasn't a big Luka guy, but you watch these playoffs, and I'm gonna say something controversial here, but if out of the people on the floor between him and Edwards, if I was looking to someone that I thought was gonna hit the big shot, clearly Luka is the guy who doesn't look afraid and is going to hit the big shot. So with that in mind, they should have been comparing Luka to Jordan before they compared Edwards to Jordan. And no, I'm not saying that they're the same or they play the same, but their lack of fear and willingness to hit it when it matters, way different than Ant.
Yeah, Ant passed up. Didn't Ant pass up the game winner in one of those games? Game winning shot. He passed it to somebody
repeatedly.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question. Do you guys recall the silver medalists and the bronze medalist winners when we watched the Olympic Games? I'm just, the reason why I'm asking that question is I don't believe you win a silver medal. I don't believe you win a bronze medal. You receive that because whoever gets the gold, they won that. So I look at it just from that perspective. I was watching the Redeem team. You don't even want to get that medal. You know why? Because somebody else is getting the gold. That's the top prize. So in 2008, when they won that gold, right, that's a different feeling because you know you took everybody's best shot and you won. And that culture was established by Kobe Bryant. Before that, they had no leader, they had no alpha that could set a precedent. See? And when you bring back that gold, it's just a whole different feeling because you know your hard work paid off. But when you get that silver, you get that bronze received, you don't want that. You don't want that because second place is what? The first loser. And third place is the second loser. So I'm just like, at the end of the day, I don't care how many narratives you try to spin. I don't care how many the altings of the standard. No, at the end of the day, the benchmark, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, you play to win the game. We don't care about no numbers.
Do y'all think that obviously the Mavericks haven't won yet, and the Celtics have been going to the conference finals year after year after year? Do you think either of those teams could cement themselves as a dynasty moving forward? Who got it?
I think Boston's window's closing. I don't see them because even hypothetically they win, the East is going to revamp, and I just do not see them being that Celtics version of the 80s. Even though they didn't repeat, they went to multiple finals. And the West, it's like AOH said, they're giving these guys contracts where they can go over there and purchase another country. So are we gonna get an influx of guys who are gonna say, no, I don't want the max because I can get the rest in endorsements, you know. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. If you look at Golden State, ultimately that's how they were able to keep those guys in concert with Kevin Durant because they had other endorsements, you know, where they could take a little bit less than the max. But no, the way these guys are now, they're so caught up with the brand. It's everything else first, basketball on the back burner.
Yeah, can you imagine losing a series like they just did, the T-Wolves, and getting paid as much as you do and still having on your mind to carry a certain product out to that podium? You just got beaten, dude. You're going home, but you're still thinking about a little bit more money from a sponsorship, so you set a drink down in front of you to be asked about losing.
Yeah. And it's like that point you made about Derek Lively. Like, why are the commentators saying, "Oh, they're going to have to pay this guy next year"? Like, why? Like, I think that should be a form of tampering.
Because
Like,
he did
you
his
shouldn't
job.
be speaking. Right. Like, you shouldn't be speaking on this guy's financial or contract situation coming up. Like, no, that should have nothing to do with his game on the floor. See, I don't like that, because now it's like, what are you doing? You're planting a seed that doesn't need to be planted. And then you're watering a seed that doesn't need to be watered. Like, I don't really like that, because why would you put that out there for him to hear it or for it to get back? Because you know he has an agent. Hey, did you hear what Kevin Harlan said about you? Like, yeah, man, they're not going to be able, like, why? I don't like. I'm totally against that. I'm totally.
Anyways, can you see the Mavs or the Celtics becoming a dynasty?
Not the Celtics, because I think that people are going to have fatigue of waiting for them to get there. If they don't do it this year, I think that the organization is probably going to do something drastic. Mavs closer because they have the young role players who actually seem like they're happy to be role players, and the leaders, Kyrie and Luka, are not the type of people who are going to do to them what LeBron did to Kyrie. You know, they're going to acknowledge everybody for what their piece of winning was. Luka acknowledges Kyrie and the rest of the team. Kyrie acknowledges Luka and the rest of the team. They would have the potential, but the money is going to be the problem. You know, these are young people. You remember how easily influenced you were when you were young? You weren't a grown man with your built-in security. You start hearing shit, and it will affect the way you think. And unless you were raised exceptionally well, you may not have the mental strength to say, hey, I don't need to listen to you guys. I'm happy where I am, and I'm making enough. Do they have the maturity to think that? We'll see.
Robin, do you think that either the Mavericks or the Celtics can become a dynasty? Or will
Who cares,
become
man? It
dynasty?
doesn't matter. It doesn't make it. Who cares? It don't matter, man. Nah, I'm lame, man. Nah, man. Like, you know, like maybe, like we were talking about the topic. Is it good for the NBA, a dynasty? I think it all goes back to the competition and the respect. That's what AOH is talking about. The respect, man. Are these dynasties going to be respected? Are these guys going to carry themselves with the integrity, with the honor? Once again, we got to fall back on the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that has to be the core for a lot of these guys, man. I understand a lot of these guys come from rough backgrounds. Maybe they're not, you know what I'm saying, as privileged as a lot of other people are, man. So the most important thing in their life might be getting that money to take care of their family, things of that nature. But ultimately, at the end of everything, it must be the love of basketball that leads you this far at this point. You can't be just going by off of what you might get from the NBA. It has to be you playing for that love, man. And that's what I think a lot of these guys got to remember, man. And once again, that's all we want is to respect these guys that are out there balling, man. So we know that they respect the game, so that they respect the fans. Because once again, that's what it's really all about. If the Cavs become the Mavs become a dynasty, yeah, maybe that would be great, man. Once again, Luka Doncic, to me, has to stop crying and moaning out there on the court sometimes. He has tendencies to be that kind of guy, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, these are the kinds of things that go to people rooting for you and want to get behind you. These dynasties, man. The Celtics, to me, I don't know if they could be a dynasty because they've had many, many years now together. Tatum and Brown have been playing together for years now. They've had Al Horford there for years. You know, you add a Drew Holiday now. So for me, this season right here, this NBA Finals, they got to show and prove something here, man. They can't come out here and get waxed in the NBA Finals by Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, man. Because once again, when you talked earlier about Luka Doncic having that ability to take shots in big moments and make these shots, well, Kyrie Irving has already proven that he can do the same thing and that he's not afraid of those moments. So you have two guys on the court with the confidence in themselves, and the team is right behind them. Because what the Mavericks are doing, what Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are basically doing, is they're allowing the role players, the Liveleys, some of these other players around them, they're allowing them to play their roles. They're allowing them to be successful in their roles. No one's stepping on each other's toes. No one's getting jealous of each other and what they might be getting, appreciation for. Everyone's allowed to do their jobs, and Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are closing the deals, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't see either of these teams, honestly, going for years-long runs. I mean, it's just because they've been moving, they've been moving the pieces. They got Drew Holiday, they got Porzingis, they got on Dallas, they got Kyrie last year, let alone all the trades they made in the middle of the season. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be, but I don't see it happening. I think it's going to get mixed up again next year. I don't see any continuancy with this. I don't. I think that these guys just and like you're saying, Robin, with the Celtics, I mean, they've had time to figure it out, and they added a couple pieces, but are they going to get tired over it if they don't win this year? Who knows? But it's a good point.
The other reason is the softness. You know, the little things, that get you over the hump. Maybe you would win the championship that year. There's another reason that might not happen, because a dude will sit out a playoff series with a calf contusion. No, you fucking play through pain and win. I understand people talk about extending their careers, but it's also the difference between you guys didn't win the championship that year. So you're not going to become dynasties when people are willing to sit out playoff games because of a discomfort.
Right, that's part of going towards these guys getting that respect, man. Think about Dirk Nowitzki in the 2011 NBA Finals, man. There was no excuses for Dirk Nowitzki, man, when he wasn't feeling good going into that Game 4, man. And LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were mocking him coming into the tunnel. There was no excuses, man. Dirk Nowitzki went out there, man. He didn't sit the game out. He went out there and he went out there and performed, man. There were many times that players could have sat out. They weren't feeling good. Maybe their team was up. Now, what you have in the playoffs, if a team is up 2 games to 1 or they're up and they feel like they can rest their player or someone's maybe sore, they'll rest these guys for a game in the postseason. And they'll be like, oh, well, we'll get one back at home, so to speak. That's what the Bucks did last year with the Miami Heat. And look what happened. It backfired. Mm-hmm. They sat Giannis for that game, and everything backfired on them, man. You can't be doing that in the postseason. That's what Joel Embiid's been doing. This guy never plays an entire postseason. This was the first year this man played all the games in the postseason, man, without missing any games. So, man, you run the money. These guys got to show up to these games.
Kawhi Leonard.
Hey, that's
real.
That's how you get your respect.
Zion Williamson, Jimmy Butler.
What you said about Dirk, that's how you get your respect. That right there. That's how you get your respect. What Dirk Nowitzki did, what Michael Jordan done, and all the other greats. Because like I told him, when you get to the playoffs, everybody's hurting. Now, when you're injured, that's a whole different ballgame. Because when you're injured, you're physically compromised. But just because you're hurting, you know, you can still play. Now, when you got the flu or something like that, that's justifiable. But to go out there and still perform and be that leader, that's how you get your respect. You don't ask for your respect. You go out there and earn your respect.
And Dirk didn't really talk about that. The reason that most of us remember it is because of the childish antics of Dwayne Wade and LeBron James making fun of him.
Hey, but JJ Barea talked about it. Go watch that interview, JJ Barea. He broke it down. He was like, he said that made him so mad. He said, they
asked Dirk about that in the post-game press conference. And they asked him if he knew about that. He said he wasn't worried about none of that stuff, man. He was just out there playing.
Yeah, that's what you call focus right there. And before I forget, did you guys know that Gary Payton also had a hairline fracture in that NBA Finals in '96 that he wore the calf sleeve on? But he disclosed that later because again, that's something he could have just I'm gonna just sit out because I'm dealing with this kid. No, when you're hurting,
that's an injury. That's not being hurt.
right. And he still went out there, because he, as Gary Payton said, you don't know when you're going to get back to this moment. So to me, those guys earned their respect. You don't ask for it; you earn it. You go out and earn your respect.
Somebody in the comments said something about Joel Embiid play with half a face and one leg. And I clapped on him. Once again, see, y'all missing the point here. Ain't no one crapped on Joel Embiid. What I said was this was the first postseason that he played all the games. I gave him props for that. You guys hear what you want to hear. And once again, Joel Embiid's getting paid how much money? I thought we were trusting the process. How many years Joel Embiid in the NBA? How many games Joel Embiid missed? All you guys do is make excuses. That's all you're doing is making excuses. Go talk to people in the real world about making excuses. You guys talking about Joel Embiid and all these things, man. Stop it, man. This is the same Joel Embiid that said he was wrestling lions in Africa. So you're telling me playing with half a face and one leg ain't nothing for him? You guys sound crazy.
And look how anxious they are.
As a process fan, I completely agree that I cannot trust the process anymore. I've finally given up. What's up, AOH?
What maybe more frightening is how eager these fans are to find an excuse and embrace the excuse. Like everything is about, oh, okay, I can behave like a complete cunt as long as I have a pretty speech afterward to explain what I was going through in life. These guys are the trend going forward is going to be coming out to press conferences with their different casts and shit on, but now they're going to have sponsorships on their fucking excuses.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. They'll never take Nikes though. Just do it.
Joel Embiid never wrestled a
See,
lion.
that's the problem with Anthony Edwards, man. My man AOH, he said something earlier about Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic. That's the key difference. Luka Doncic is signed with the Jordan brand because Michael Jordan understands and recognizes and respects Luka Doncic, man. And who's Anthony Edwards signed with? He's signed with Adidas, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely not his son. I've seen some memes where it was Maury memes with Luka Doncic and Michael Jordan, and it's like you are not the father.
I just saw that. That was so hilarious, man. I was like, wow. But you know what? Again, that's par for the course. Because when you get those comparisons, you're gonna get the backlash if you don't perform. So I'm not even mad at it because the media they hyped it up. But again, if you only have one option, when you start getting that comparison, you must win. Because if you don't, oh no, the internet, they're not gonna show you no mercy.
I can't believe he admitted that he didn't work out like he was planning on going further. I mean, that's just a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Man.
Hey, Robin, Mr. Sports and Fitness Rants, you know that Gatorade's not good for you, right? Do you guys know Gatorade's not good for you?
Oh yeah.
I don't drink Gatorade. I know that.
Anyway, I'm bringing it up because they pulled
This is that's a Michael Jordan drink.
Yeah, and Michael Jordan ate McDonald's. Okay, he's
every morning.
Don't look to Michael Jordan for your health decisions unless you're a machine that can play anyway like he did. But I'm bringing this up because of them pulling the beer out of Luka's hands. Dude, a beer is better for you than a lot of the shit that these guys are putting on the podiums in their press game conferences.
That's good news for me.
That's why the kids have to understand, man. Just because these guys advertise these things, man, or something like that, doesn't necessarily mean that they're using these things. They're, like I said, actually taking these products, man. So once again, when we talk about be like Mike, it's not about eating McDonald's or drinking Gatorade necessarily, man. It's about everything that Michael Jordan represents on the basketball court, man. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we loved about Michael Jordan. So when we think about, these guys drinking beer or whatever they're drinking, man, and we talk about health and things of that nature, once again, we cannot compare ourselves necessarily to a freak athlete. Freak. I always say on my channel, how often do you run into people in your everyday life that are 7 feet tall or 6'10", 6'9", 6'8", man? You don't see these people as often, right? You see other kinds of heighted people, man. There's a reason for that. A lot of these people, they're freaks, man. You won't see these kinds of people. Michael Jordan could do whatever he wanted. The man can make it rain out there. He could not sleep for days, apparently. Go play 36 holes of golf, come back and dominate the Olympics. This is what the man could do. He could never sleep and do these things, play cards all hours of the night, smoke cigars, drink whiskey, whatever you want to do. Not everyone could do those things. There are people who smoke cigarettes for a year and they get cancer. There are some people who smoke cigarettes for 30 years. Nothing happens to them. This is the way life is, man. What you want to do is, once again, put the odds in your favor. Do the right things. Make smart choices, man. And once again, man, life ain't promised, man.
We got a super chat real fast from Pierre Lynch. Thank you, sir, for $10 US. He says, "Hey, Dart, I'm so tired. I worked on the Friends podcast until 5 a.m. Hello to Hoop God, Robin, and AOH."
Hello,
man. Well, I'm glad that he. I'm sure he appreciates your help on his podcast, and thank you for the super chat. Hope you're doing well otherwise, other than being tired. But yeah, you guys want to talk on the subject? Any more questions on the subject, or do you want to start taking the line or opening the lines up for calls? Or
you can open the line.
Yeah, take a call. Let's do it.
All right, for everyone that doesn't know, the easiest way to call in is to come to my page. Michael Jordan Fans Are the Best.
If you've liked what I had to say, please subscribe on the way in the door, as our friend on Common Sense would say. Otherwise, I've dropped a link in my channel. And if you'd like to call in, just click on the link, accept the audio and video permissions. You can be able to talk to us and ask a question or comment on what we've had to say. Yeah. And I need some furniture.
We don't know
I'm
because we can't see you.
I know. I don't. I look like I'm just look like a fat Greek waiting for grapes to be fed to me. That's what I look like right now in the camera. So laid out like a freaking seal, getting up from flipping over on its back. I'm not that fat, but still, it's not a flattering position I'm in.
It's those food dyes. See, you got everybody in the chat talking about Gatorade now. See, what you guys want to avoid, man, when we talk about some of these drinks, man, is those food dyes, man. Those red, yellows, and all that stuff you see. Look for those things, man. That's what you want to avoid.
Yep.
Welcome, Jamal. How are you today, sir? Hello. Jamal, you got your YouTube on.
Or you hear me yelling.
Jamal, you hear me? We can't hear you. I can hear you that you've called in. So can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, y'all can hear me now?
Yes.
There he is.
Hold on a second.
All right. Somebody says avoid haterade. That's Michael Jordan's drink of choice, man, or at least on publicly.
There's so much sugar in that shit. First of all, even before you get to the other stuff.
Yeah, what about all the electrolytes? What's up, Jamal?
Yeah, hey, no, I was just calling into well, first of all, I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. Big shout out to Rob, the sports and fitness rant. He's always holding it down. And to me, he's way more entertaining than him and Jordan versus LeBron. Like, it feels a lot better listening to them because it now feels like, okay, good. I'm not in the twilight zone. Because I love me some Joy Taylor, but she just irked me to no core. I mean, she is the ultimate media pick me. Like when she says things like, I'll get to the subject, but when she says things like, all titles are the same. There is no difference between the Disney title, Durant's 2017 title, and the title that Jordan got in '93, and other titles got in the hard way. I mean, that's insane. She doesn't think the salaries are too much. She thinks everything is just fine and goes along with the bigger, faster, stronger narrative. And it's like, but two not in shape white guys are running the league. I mean, I like Luka and them, but this whole notion that bigger, faster, stronger. I mean, Anthony Edwards is the greatest athlete we ever seen. SGA is the greatest athlete we ever seen. Charles Barkley could. So it's like these guys are a joke. So we don't need another dynasty, but we definitely need better storylines. And these guys jump from team to team, and that ruins storylines. And that's why the jerseys don't sell, because you don't know if that guy's going to be playing for that team next year.
Jamal, when you say you like Joy Taylor, you mean you like looking at her, or you think she used to say smart things?
Oh, both. I mean, I love looks at her. I like her personality. She's definitely a guy's lady. But like, she just says a lot of cap, and I can tell she's speaking from the perspective of the players. Like, she tends to take the player side a lot. And the players, I get the feeling she knows that the older fans are really coming down on how the league does things and stuff like that. So she's trying to in her own passive aggressive way, trying to legitimize it. That's what I think she's doing.
She's on Speak, right?
Yeah.
That show.
Yeah,
that show.
with Acho and Rick Bucher. I like Rick Bucher too, but like,
you gotta say it right. Slick Rick Bucher.
Yeah, Slick Rick Bucher. I like him, but they do a little bit too much capping.
Yeah, that show is hard to listen to sometimes. Often, actually.
So Yeah, so that's what I wanted to address. That that's why I watch sports and fitness rant and all that, because it gets to a point where you just get tired of hearing all this cap and some of these other channels from these LeBron fans. And what I don't like that they do is they continuously, in order to try to prove their point, they have to keep moving the goalpost, because LeBron James keeps moving the goalpost and jumping teams and you know controlling the stage, controlling the media. I mean, it's sickening, and it's kind of corrupt. Like, people say, "Oh, how come you're mad about a black man having his own agents?" It's not that I'm having a problem with a black man doing that. It's that it's about principle. You can't
Yeah.
have a superstar have his own agency while he's still playing. Think there's not going to be some kind of conflict of interest, and then the more people say, "I don't know what you're talking about," that makes me think everything is corrupt.
Yeah. Well, and
Where
I'm
do you
glad you
feel?
brought that point up, because they'll pull the race card when it's convenient for them, right? But then I always ask
Hmm.
them, okay, where was this plea for sympathy every time the media tears down Kobe Bryant? When you have these certain platforms like First Take, and I want like a Stephen A. Smith, like there's no reason Shaquille O'Neal has to constantly correct Stephen A. Smith and say, no, my guy deserves to be in that GOAT combo too. But then I'll go even further. They'll say, "Well, why are you mad about a black blah blah?" I'm like, "Well, why do you?" And I asked him, I said, "How many times do you speak up when Isaiah Thomas has to constantly do what? Tear down Michael Jordan?" I'm like, as great as Isaiah Thomas, as phenomenal of a player that he is more known for taking shots at Michael Jordan than he is his own career. Because a lot
Hmm.
of these kids playing today, they only know that Isaiah Thomas is playing for the Boston Celtics. They don't even know that there was an Isaiah Thomas that played for the Pistons on one leg in the 1988 finals that
Do
put
you
up
mean
25
the
points.
Do
They
you
don't
mean the
know about
sports commentator?
yeah,
Do you mean
yeah, exactly. And I always ask them, I'm like, don't pick and choose one little isolated event to play that. If you're gonna play that race card, play it for everybody. But don't do it to try to make
Right.
one guy a victim, because now you're being a hypocrite. So no, I agree with what you're saying, because that lets me know when they're doing that, they're desperate. Like they're beyond desperate.
And we're in the fake woke era. You got LeBron fake reading a book and putting on glasses and just doing so much antics, where it's like, just
And
be real, man. Like,
he's always on the first page. He's never in the middle of the book. He's on the first page.
first page at the table of contents. Like, this guy is a joke. Everything he does is for show. So now it's like, if Nike is telling you, and who's to say Nike's not doing the same thing for Kaepernick too? I don't want to get into that, but the point I'm making is, if you go from Nike telling guys in the '90s, don't speak up, because you don't want to alienate people, to having Nike say, "Hey guys, act woke and be pro-black," it's like, you guys are both being puppets for Nike, but at least one group of guys is being real and they're saying this about business. This other group is using social activism for business purposes, and it's disgusting.
Well, yeah, and
Oh,
what you're saying is valid, because look how they did Kyrie.
Robin, what were you going to say?
no, I was gonna say, yeah, we definitely going into the weeds right now. But what I want to say something, as it pertains to what he was just talking about, and people, like I said, you guys are alluding to this off the field, off the court type of deal. In the 90s, it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't necessarily that, you shouldn't speak up or you shouldn't do XYZ. Is that you didn't have to do these things. Everyone was allowed to be themselves. There was
Yeah,
nothing wrong with you being quiet. No one ever thought Michael Jordan was doing something wrong for not speaking. I never thought that. I don't know who ever criticized Michael Jordan like that. Only people who were into politics and let that kind of stuff run their lives are worried about those kinds of things, man. So when you in the 90s, in my opinion, you were allowed to be yourself. If you wanted to be vocal, you could be vocal. You could be Charles Barkley. You could be that kind of guy. You could have that charisma. If you wanted to be kind of back in the weeds, you could kind of be that way too.
Yeah,
If you wanted to
true.
tiptoe the line like Michael Jordan, you could do those things. It didn't matter. You fit your personality, who you were, and people respected you for who you were, how you carried yourself ultimately, and everyone respected Michael Jordan, man. When we think about the guys today, my problem as it pertains to this kind of conversation is that these guys will speak up, they'll do XYZ, but then they cannot take the backlash that comes with those things, whether the response is good or negative or bad, whatever it is. They can't take it. So what happens? They play the victim now. Everyone's a victim. Instead of standing up for whatever you believe in and standing on that, they don't do that. So look at LeBron James, for an example. He'll delete his tweets. Instead of standing on these things, standing on what he says, he'll delete these things because he realizes he's just talking out of his ass right now. So these are the kinds of things I have a problem with a lot of those guys. But when you mentioned Dwight Taylor and her talking about every championship being equal, there's no way in hell that could be true. Because once again, this is what we're alluding to right now in this video on this live stream. Is that's the competition is what makes you a great dynasty. That's what matters the most, is who you're going against, the way you win about your championships, the way these guys battled through pain. They didn't sit out games or load manage. None of these things. We talk about the Disney championship. How is that the same as some of the other championships? When these guys didn't even travel, they had no crowd in the stands. It can't be the same thing. It's definitely not. It's crazy.
I wanted to say something that you talked about, Jamal, because I brought this up recently, talking about the bigger, stronger, faster thing, and you mentioned Jokic and Luka. I went on to another channel 2 days ago because they were making a special about my friend here, and
Yeah,
I asked the guy, I said, because he started talking about bigger, stronger, faster. And I said, isn't in sports, isn't the whole way of being dominant in sports is being able to control and manipulate space to be able to do the actions you want to do, whatever sport you're doing? And he's like, yeah, but it's really hard to do that. Of course, but that's what matters, because you having a fast first step has nothing to do with how you're able to counter any sort of defensive action, or if you're in the low post, how you're able to counter and make space to make a shot or a jump shot, or controlling the distance for defense, or all these aspects of the game. This is just for basketball. This goes for any sport. The bigger,
Right.
stronger, faster narrative it's an aspect of it. I'm not saying that it's something that doesn't help, but that doesn't make you a great player. It makes you a fast player. It makes you a strong player. It makes you a taller player. But people will get cooked otherwise. You know what I mean? It's just by slow, athletic white guys, as a lot of guys like to call these guys. Not that they're not, but just to the point of is that it's funny how people will just disrespect people that know how to play the game and just lean on the guys that have these natural athletic abilities. And I had also asked, I said, why do they draft based on potential versus actual know-how? And he's like, well, it's harder to find a guy that has the athleticism. I don't know, man. It seems like that's all they draft nowadays. So, I think it's kind of easier to find it, but I don't know.
I was
That's just a
listening.
sidebar.
I was listening to The Odd Couple the other day, and Broussard and Parker quoted apparently an actual sports columnist who said that watching Jokic is like watching baseball or watching paint dry. Or he really shit on him, and I was just thinking that's a shot at me, because I like watching Jokic. Maybe it's because I play down low, even though I'm not big enough to. But watching his decision making and his footwork and him figuring out how to manipulate the situation so that he can still score, I find very entertaining. And his decision making and the speed with which he passes and how he knows where someone's going to be, to where the second the ball touches his hands and he's already releasing it to the right place, that's athleticism, and I think it's fun to watch. If the only thing that you get out of basketball is seeing someone jump high or run fast, I think you're really dumbing down the game. I think it's oversimplification. Just go to a track meet then and watch the high jump or the 100 meters. It's way more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have more athleticism, but to say that someone isn't fun to watch just because they aren't doing those two things I don't think that's a very intelligent thing to say if you're supposed to be a basketball fan.
And I love when those
Context,
casuals use that casual argument about bigger, stronger, faster, right? So I always ask them, who's your top 10 point guards? Because I just let them set themselves up. And I'm hearing everybody they're naming. So when they get done, right, customarily I would hear John Stockton being top 3, top 5, somewhere in there. And I always ask, you said bigger, stronger, faster. I'm like, okay, well, none of those guys that you mentioned are bigger, stronger, and faster than Steve Francis or a Russell Westbrook or a Baron Davis. Like those guys are big, strong, and fast. None of them are in the top 5. Then I'll even go further.
Derrick Rose.
They'll say bigger, stronger, faster, but I'm asking them, okay, well, Sean Kemp has to be the greatest power forward of all time. Who's bigger, stronger, and faster than him at his absolute prime? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm talking about Sean Kemp with the Seattle Sonics, Supersonics, like that. And then they'll name everybody. He's nowhere to be mentioned. I'm like, okay, but you said bigger, stronger, faster. I'm like, so I'm trying to contextualize bigger, stronger, faster, yet none of these guys fit the mold. I give you guys another example. Look at Gerald Green. I don't think anybody in the NBA amongst backcourt players had a higher vertical leap than him. Like, dude could jump out the gym. What was he at best? A role player coming off the bench. So I'm like, when they say this, right, it's like they'll say that hoping that it's just, I'm going to throw this and hope it sticks to the wall. Because anybody that knows basketball can easily dissect that. And when they say bigger, stronger, fast, I'm like, okay, well, Dennis Rodman was stronger than Larry Bird, was faster than Larry Bird. I won't necessarily say that he wasn't bigger than Bird. Of course, Bird was like 16 and a half. I said, but with him being faster and so much stronger, well, how come Larry Bird used to customarily light him up before he had his back injury? Like he would tell, hey, Chuck Daly, Chuck, put somebody on me. He's already got 30 on Dennis Rodman. I said, no. When you're playing basketball, it's a skills and a fundamental game. Like Tim Duncan ain't jumping out the gym, yet he's the greatest power forward of all time. I mean, come on, man. I'm like, they'll look at the stats and just try to like justify, oh, this guy did that. But I'm like, well, how did he do it? Well, what do you mean? Did you even watch the game? Okay, so you're giving me some stats. Yeah, you can't tell me how this guy got those stats. Just like AOH just broke down Jokic in his sequences. Like you said, those timely passes, the right decision making. Because if he'd have been a split second too early, the pass might have got deflected, or a split second too late, it could have gotten, somebody could have intercepted it. No, these things matter. Like, I have to be able to see a sequence where Michael Jordan steals the ball from Karl Malone, comes down the court, knowing everybody in that Utah Jazz stadium know he's going to take that shot, and still has the mental fortitude to pull up and take the shot and win it, ultimately winning that series for the Chicago Bulls. Like, no, how did he get these stats? Because if you can't tell me how he got these stats, that's not really doing anything for me. So, yeah, that whole bigger, stronger, faster, that's another media narrative that they had to create, hoping that they could dumb down people who don't really know the game, but yet they'll try to ignore people who can actually break that down simultaneously. So it's just funny to me. But yeah, I had to wrap on that point.
Real fast.
I wonder if he would have passed the ball.
Oh, real fast, Jamal. Robin, you got AOH got a super chat, but it's directed towards Robin for $2 US dollars. When are you going to get your super chats back again?
Yo, shout out to my man Hayden Phoenix, man. Yo, much respect, man. Thank you for all the support. Yeah, next month I should be back up and running, man. I should be monetized. Like I said, if not, who cares, man? It don't matter. I'm still gonna be here doing my thing, but hopefully next month, guys.
Yep. What were you saying, Jamal?
No, I was just about to be a bit of a smartass and say, well, I wonder if Jordan would have passed the ball, would they have said he made the right basketball play?
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's a good point. Because I always ask this question. Why didn't Ray Allen pass the ball to LeBron? He was wide open. He was waiting for the ball. I asked those questions like, did Ray Allen make the right play? I mean, I don't know,
Because LeBron just missed that shot twice right before that.
I watched that game a lot, or not in person, but I was watching that, and especially as a Spurs fan at the time.
Oh, God.
And they made that run that last minute, and that happened. I'm like, dude, like just get the rebound, man, and just end the game. But
yeah,
it was such a painful sequence. I also watched live the Kawhi shot over Joel Embiid in that Game 7 a few years ago in the playoffs. That the most roll, however you want to describe it. It was that roll-in was designed by God for Kawhi Leonard. I don't think anyone could do that. That was such a crazy roll-in. So I have the worst luck with watching stuff like that.
Anyway, I'll get out of here now. But yeah, it was nice talking to you guys.
Thanks, Jamal.
Absolutely, Jamal.
Man. Much respect.
Indeed, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Yep. And for the people that want to go and they want to join the live stream again, if you've just come in, if you want to go and call in, the easiest way is to come to my channel and then click the link and you'll be able to call in. But yeah, man, that bigger, stronger, faster narrative kills me, man. It doesn't. I understand that. Yes, a first step matters a lot. Being able to get over people being taller than people matters. It does. But then I really don't get the and Lamont had said, oh well, you just rely on a skills coach. Well, I mean, you're
What
relying on
coach?
a skill or a development coach, a skills coach in the
Yo,
NBA.
man, that's the problem right now. Everyone's a guru. Everyone's an expert right now. Everyone's got 5 coaches. They got 10 trainers, 3 chefs, a nutritionist. They got a guy to do massages. They got a guy to rub their feet. That's the problem with these fools. Like you say, LeBron James spends millions on his body for pennies on the game. So I don't want to hear about their coaches for skills and things of that nature. When you talk about bigger, let's think about the word bigger. What does that mean? Does that mean taller? Does that mean weight-wise bigger? Does that mean muscle-wise bigger? Because if you think about the height, this is not the tallest era in NBA's history. That was actually in the 80s was the tallest era in NBA's history. So they're not bigger, and they're definitely not more muscular. You see the guys that I was watching in the 80s and the 90s were way more muscular than these guys are, man. So those guys were obviously bigger. You talk about stronger. They're not stronger in this era. So I don't know what they're alluding to, man.
Kevin, welcome, Kevin. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
Great. Did you have a question or comment for the panel?
Question and a comment. I kind of put it in the comment section earlier, but I think one of the biggest concerns with LeBron, I mean, we all know what the issues are with him, but the media manipulation is my biggest thing. The fact where there's like this concerted effort to infiltrate the media. When I'm watching these shows, I can see all of his former teammates all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I can see whenever, if we go back in history and we're looking at the Warriors, and there's just like this infiltration by putting some sort of a double agent player so he can keep tabs on everything. And when we talk about inorganic success, I think that's what really separates him from Mike and Kobe. Because the differences with Mike and Kobe is they're pretty much taking what they want, rather than LeBron is trying to set up the perfect conditions for it to be exact to what he would need. And let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I used to look at the comparisons between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and I used to think, all right, they're kind of like on the same level. But then when I used to watch Peyton Manning and he's like doing his drives, he used to always do this thing where he's like trying to get the crowd to like be quiet and make sure that you can control everything. But Tom Brady, to me, he didn't really care. He's going to do what he wants to do, regardless of the conditions. And that's kind of like how I see it. Like when you guys were referencing the bubble, and there's just like the perfect conditions. There's no fans, there's no oppositions. It's the perfect environment. And how you build yourself off of those imperfect conditions kind of it gives you that stamina, that mental toughness to be able to overcome things. But I think what's happening now is because they realize he's not mentally tough enough to overcome things, they had to pretty much change the whole stage, the media, the games, everything. And it's kind of strange to think that you would have something that complex be controlled, but that's how I see it. When everything just seems like the guy said before, like the Twilight Zone, it's just too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on.
Well, you mentioned the bubble, so I'll start there. Was it Steven Adams in the interview and was like, dude, we're in a resort, let's not act like we're in what do you say, Serbia or some war-torn part of the world. And obviously they weren't traveling. They had their chefs. They went on Disney rides and shit in between games or whatever they did. And Stephen A. Smith, to exactly what the caller pointed out, you're in the Twilight Zone. For Stephen A. Smith to come out and try to say that may have been the toughest championship because of being in the bubble. That is clearly a manipulation. That is clearly trying to help out LeBron James, because there's no fucking way in hell you could possibly believe that is a tougher scenario, unless you're a LeBron-minded person who listens to whatever the fuck the media says.
Absolutely. Robin, what do you got to say about it?
Well, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, man. When we're on this channel, man, on these live streams, man, is how these players are, man. All these kinds of things, man. Was there like a specific question that we were asked?
No, he was just commenting about the media manipulation and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what it is. Like this is what we're talking about. We're talking about changing or lowering the standard, lowering the bar for these current players. So that's why they'll always make it seem as if the past eras weren't that great. That's how they lower the standard. So when these guys don't do X, Y, Z, that's what they're doing. They're lowering the standard. That's why these guys now cheer for mediocrity now. They'll say, oh, LeBron James made it to the NBA Finals 8 straight times. They never talked about these things for Magic Johnson. How many times did Magic Johnson go to the NBA Finals? I don't know, but I know how many times he won. That's what people talked about. So now in this era, that's what the media does now. They've changed the conversation. Like you said, they manipulate these things. And this is what we're talking about, rewriting their history, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to rewrite the history that we watched growing up, man. So once again, like my man said earlier, he said something about, I thought I was in the Matrix. Like I thought I was in like, a Twilight Zone. That's what they want. That's what they make you believe. That all of a sudden the things that you watched growing up didn't happen the way it happened. And all of a sudden those guys weren't great and they weren't competing, all of these things, because they're lowering that standard right now.
Yeah, I think I do think that the media manipulation is I think it's fairly obvious that it's, especially with the guys that they're putting on in front of the TV. Now JJ Redick has kind of come back in hindsight that he was involved with it. Sorry, no, I was looking at one of these comments. I got a little distracted. But if like JJ Redick in hindsight, now they got a podcast together, him and LeBron. You got Draymond, who's openly signed to Clutch Sports. And you got these guys that are just pushing these wild narratives to say that, like, for instance, the bubble championship is the hardest of all time. Now, for me, I differentiate from you guys that I think a title counts as a title, but it does matter in context, the differences between how you get it. Obviously, if you go and you want to talk about it, what was a harder road to the finals, you can make a judgment on that. I don't count it as like a 3.5. I still count it as a full title. But I do think it's a wild thing to say that it was the hardest. If anything, it was the easiest, because you're sitting in a Disney resort, as said. You only, you don't have the crowds, you don't have the travel, you get dined on by Disney food. All these guys that are just pampering you, and you hang out in a hotel for a few months. If anything, it was probably the easiest outside of being away from your family and stuff like that. But in respect to playing basketball and the wear and tear in your body and all of that, there's no way that is the hardest outside of, your family interests.
They got to stop acting like these are family men and it's hurting them to be away. Sorry, no. That's a fantasy world.
They're never around their family in the first place. They're traveling the country for 9 months,
right?
If they're lucky, to get to the finals. But yeah, absolutely. Like
and let's
what do you
think.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
One more way that is easier is if you compare it to a LeBron type of person who does better when there's less pressure. Like if his team is up big, LeBron starts making more shots. Or if the game doesn't matter anymore, LeBron will make more shots. So in the bubble, without having a crowd there, that helps a LeBron James. Whereas with a Michael Jordan, that might hurt him a little bit because he actually thrives in that sort of an environment. But Michael Jordan would have done it anyway. He'll find a way to motivate himself. He'll pretend that one of the digital faces in the audience was talking shit or something. He'll get it done.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of Skip Bayless so eloquently naming him the front runner, because yes, that's how he wants it. He wants those conditions where it's going to be favorable for him. Prime example, when you're going against a Miami Heat team with two of their best players already injured, that's what he wants. He has minimal pressure, so that helps him because again, when you're not, I would say, cut from that cloth of a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, a Larry Bird. Yeah. Now you feel great. You can go out there and play like you want to and do whatever. Yeah, but when you're going up against a San Antonio Spurs who have the scouting report on you and can stop you from scoring where you are most efficient, then we ultimately see what happens. I mean, he shrinks. I mean, it's just like, you wash a shirt and just go put it out in the sun. I mean, yeah, it starts out at an extra large and it shrinks down to like a medium. So no, that's just who he is in essence. He wants the conditions favorable for him. But even still, when you stack the decks, you get obliterated by Dirk Nowitzki, who was on a mission that year. So no, I just when I see that, it's just like you want the same acclaim and notoriety as guys, yet you didn't walk the same path that they walked. It's almost akin to, yeah, you want to be served what the guys over here are eating on this table, like they're getting filet mignon, but yet you didn't do any of the work. No, you can't get the same entree when you didn't help prepare that meal. So no, you can't skip those steps. That's why I said that's another reason why he's still playing. None of those other guys, and I want to quote Sports and Fitness Rants, because I remember he was making like different images of different champions, like never asked his respect. And that's true. Those guys never asked for their respect, not one time, because they know they earned it. When you have to ask for your respect, or I would say beg for your respect, you didn't earn it. You cheated. So no, you can't be in that class with those guys who earned it.
We got a super chat from Callie Young. I might need glasses. For $4.99 US. Why doesn't Kyrie get more credit for hitting the shot versus Golden State? Braun gets all the credit for that 3-1 comeback. Robin, what do you got to say about that?
Because this once again goes to the narratives.
Yeah.
They must continue to pump the narratives, man. That's why Kyrie. Think about it. When you think about the LeBron James fans, man, and you think about how they treat all these kinds of other players, the arguments. What do? They'll always bring up Scottie Pippen. You see them in the comments right now talking about Scottie Pippen. They're worried more about Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan's teammate, than they actually are LeBron James' teammates. They talk more about Scottie Pippen than they do about Dwayne Wade or Kevin Love or Chris Bosh or Ray Allen or Anthony Davis or that same Kyrie Irving that hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history. You know what's funny about that shot is the LeBron James fans will often bring up guys like Steve Kerr and John Paxson. They'll try to relate those shots and say that they were similar and things of that nature. Or Michael Jordan was saved by these players. One of the things that we have to remember about LeBron James during that sequence was LeBron James was standing off in the corner, minding his business, just getting out of the way. He didn't want nothing to do with that last play. He was over there biting his nails, blowing on his hands. That's what LeBron James was doing during that entire sequence, while Kyrie Irving got a screen, got Steph Curry on him, sized him up, got to his spot on the court, and drilled a jump shot right in his face. That goes to Kyrie Irving. LeBron James didn't set a screen for him. LeBron James didn't do any action off ball. LeBron James wasn't a distraction or a decoy on the other end. He was literally standing in the corner while Kyrie hit that shot. Michael Jordan didn't do that in any one of those sequences against the Suns with John Paxson. Michael Jordan was the decoy that play. All the Phoenix Suns thought Michael Jordan was going to shoot that ball. And what did Michael Jordan do? He took the inbounds pass, and instead of going and driving up, he made a quick pass to the center of the court, and the Phoenix Suns were scrambling, which left Paxson wide open. And we all know about the Steve Kerr play. So when we think about Kyrie Irving not getting any credit, that goes to the narratives, man, that they're always doing. They can't give Kyrie Irving credit. They can't give Dwayne Wade any credit. They'll literally bring Scottie Pippen up every single day. They'll never bring up Dwayne Wade. They won't bring up Dwayne Wade one bit. They tear down Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's knees were bad. I saw someone in the comments say that, oh, how do you know that Scottie Pippen, or we're giving Michael Jordan all the credit for Scottie Pippen's development? No, you're not understanding. When people try to say that Michael Jordan had nothing to do with Scottie Pippen, they talk in a hypothetical. What we do know for one thing for certain is that Michael Jordan played with Scottie Pippen for many, many years. Michael Jordan never asked Scottie Pippen to be traded, never demanded the Bulls trade Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan never demanded him trade himself. None of these things happened. Michael Jordan stayed with Scottie Pippen and he pushed him. So we don't know what Scottie Pippen would have been without Michael Jordan, but the one thing we do know is that he was greater because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you talk about hypotheticals, Robin. Sure, I guess that there's a way we can't ever prove what Pippen might have become because he was with Jordan. He had that luxury. What we do have evidence of is how great Kyrie was before LeBron. What we do have evidence of is how great Dwayne Wade was before LeBron. So you can't spend all your time building your argument on something that can't be proven because we know what Scottie might or might not have been. I think he's weak-minded. I did an entire episode of him showing that he was weak-minded. I don't think he would have developed very well, but again, I can't ever prove it, and neither can Scottie. But what we can prove is how great the players were that LeBron James would run to before he got to them. And by the way, I did complete visual breakdowns of those exact games, the Paxson and Kerr and Ray Allen games. If you guys haven't watched them, I highly recommend you go watch those. They're kind of old now, but they're worth a watch.
Yeah, okay, word.
Awesome. Hoop guy, what do you got to say about this Kyrie thing?
Yeah, man. See, that's another one. They'll always say that LeBron James came back from 3-1, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so are we just going to completely forget Kyrie's contribution to that? Because this is me. And like I said, I'm looking at it just from a basketball standpoint. Now, yeah, LeBron James obviously was the best player, but Kyrie was more impactful. The reason why I'm saying that, Kyrie Irving hit all those big shots that they needed to either extend the lead or to cut into the lead that the Golden State Warriors had established. And without him going in that game 5 again, I always have to bring this up. They talk about LeBron. Yeah, he went for 41. Kyrie went for 41. I said, yeah, but look at Kyrie Irving's shooting splits. It wasn't even close. I said, the man had the greatest shooting splits I've ever seen by any basketball player. And I'm talking about the guys who can fill it up, like just lethal scores. Like he shot 71% from the field, 71% from the three, 100% from the free throw line. Only 2 free throws, mind you. He shot 69% from the mid-range, 82% true shooting. I said they needed every bit of that phenomenal shooting efficiency because had he went out there and shot like LeBron's normal shooting percentages, they lose. Like there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I said to me, that's the separator. When Kyrie Irving just started going bananas in game 5, ultimately game 6, and then game 7, when LeBron James, as my man Sports and Fitness Rank said, game 7, he's over there biting his nails and stuff like that because he just missed the last 5 shots within the 4-minute 34-second mark. So the team is looking for you to convert on these baskets, but you're so unorthodox. You don't have a go-to move that you're just throwing stuff up, looking for a bailout call from the ref. Now Kyrie Irving has to save you when he gets the ball and like you're not even a part of the screen action. I mean, J.R. Smith set a great screen after he helped you out with that block, which that doesn't get talked about for some reason. And then Kyrie Irving sizes up Steph Curry, hits the 3 ultimately that puts them up. And then if you guys go look at the subsequent play, LeBron gets the rebound, and I promise you, he did not have that ball 1 full second. It probably was an eighth of a second. He hot potatoed that thing to Kyrie so fast. I mean, he did not want no part of that. I'm looking at all of that action right there, and I'm like, wait a minute. But the media just keep telling us that LeBron led this comeback. Oh, that one made me the greatest of all time. Well, what does that make Kyrie Irving? That he made all those big shots in that moment. I mean, no, we're not going to cast him off to the side like that. So, yeah, I'm rooting for Kyrie to dispel that narrative and then ultimately to dispel all the fake media pundits who were just attacking his character, all because he didn't, I guess, see their political viewpoint or he didn't look from their lens from, all the stuff that has nothing to do with basketball. So, yeah, I'm rooting for Kyrie, man, so he can just put all these idiots to bed and make them humbly get on the panel and apologize.
Hoops God.
Oh, just real fast, AOH. Yeah, I wanted to say why Kyrie doesn't get the credit is because LeBron James won that series by himself. That's all. What were you saying, AOH?
Well, even now, while Kyrie is having this nice time in his career, most of the media is saying, well, why, the hard time that Kyrie had in his career, he brought on himself. And they're still focusing on, him deserving blame, while someone like LeBron James, who deserves scrutiny, they actually avoid scrutinizing him while saying he's the most scrutinized. But what I really want to talk about is one of the things that they say Kyrie did bad and brought on himself was wanting out of Cleveland. Well, no shit he wanted out of Cleveland. Fucking work your ass off and save the other dude's ass. And at the end of the day, that guy, when he's standing there on the court, is thinking, man, that one right there made me the greatest of all time. He's not thinking of gratitude. He's not thinking of, man, I'm blessed to have a guy like Kyrie and these other teammates. He's fully focused on himself. The media followed suit, gave the credit to LeBron James. No fucking shit Kyrie wanted out of there. I would have wanted out of there.
Yeah, I mean, he should have realized LeBron did it. So, but no, I think, yeah, absolutely, man. I from the outside looking in, I think I would not be able to stand LeBron James as a teammate. I think he would irk me. But again, I don't know him personally, but outside looking in, he seems like somebody I personally wouldn't like. I got a question for you all though, because I was thinking about this topic. I'm not sure. This is for maybe next week's topic. I might end up doing this myself because I think it's kind of funny, and it's not specifically about basketball. It's about some basketball fans. I was thinking about doing a video on our LeBron James ageist cyberbullies. Is that something y'all want to join in? I'm going to do it either way if y'all aren't interested in it, but.
What did you just say?
That LeBron James fans are ageist cyberbullies.
Cyberbullies. I mean, I think they try to be bullies, man, but they're not bullies, man. That's the thing about it. See, LeBron James fans are soft. That's the thing about them by nature. They're soft and feminine. So that doesn't really speak to you being a bully to me. You know what I'm saying? Who are they bullying? They're not bullying anybody, man. They're a bunch of idiots. They don't got no facts on their side, but I'm down for that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm with sports and fitness rants. Yeah, I've never considered them bullies. Like, to me, they're more of circus performers. If I had to give them
they're a nuisance. That's why we're here, to stomp them out.
Yeah.
They're like roaches, man. You got to, you know what I'm saying? We got to turn the lights on these fools.
Every time I see a LeBron fan trying to put forth a narrative, like, I just hear Ringling Brothers circus music playing in my head, and I'm like, wow, these guys are great circus minstrels. Yeah. I love it because they give me entertainment. Like, they legitimately think that they're, I guess, changing the standard, or they're altering society. Like, okay, let's do a poll. We do a poll, and Michael Jordan, like he clears it. And what I'm starting to see now here, and I will say this has been happening within the last 5 or 6 years. Like, Kobe Bryant is starting to make segues, because I'm seeing more and more of his basketball videos coming out, and I'm like, wait a minute. How are you guys keep telling us this guy's the best, yet nobody's seeking him out to learn basketball? I wouldn't want my children, I wouldn't want anybody, any youth that I'm associated with, to watch him to get better at basketball. So I'm like, well, what exactly are we looking at? Like, I mean, like Sports and Fitness Rant said it, you spend millions on your body, but you spend pennies on your game. You can't teach nobody about the game of basketball.
Anyway, Joe, would you be interested in that show, or?
Yeah. I think they attempt to be bullies, but they don't have good, they don't have good arguments, so it falls flat, or at least to me it falls flat. But they are guilty of doing exactly what they claim other people are doing. They call people haters and things like that, or they say, oh, how dare you, when LeBron is a good family man or whatever. I'm like, okay, so you're immediately trying to not talk about basketball, and if you are white and don't like LeBron James, you're racist. If you're a black man and you criticize LeBron James, you're I guess, betraying your brother. And you're not helping out your community, things like that. So, and it's all about trying to shit on other people. It's trying to say that criticizing LeBron James makes you a bad person. Having any opinion that isn't proper makes you or any opinion that tries to hold LeBron accountable makes you a mean person. So they attack people's character in order to win their basketball argument, while saying it's wrong to attack people's character.
Yeah.
Their hypocrisy has no bounds. Hey, I got to quote Doc Holliday from Tombstone.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
I just think there's some real meanies, I don't know. I think it's funny personally. That's why I want to do it, because it is funny when they try to do that.
Hey, Dart, I'll put it this way. Every basketball dialogue that I've had, I've thoroughly embarrassed them. That's why I can't consider them bullies. That's why I said they're circus minstrels. I mean, I enjoy it because they're so easy to dissect. I'm like, yo, this is the easiest fan base to have a discussion with, and like, just easily cut them down. Easily.
That's all it is, man. They try to do that. I remember when Bob Cousy came out and spoke up against J.J. Redick and the things that he was talking about the players from the 50s and the 60s. And when I heard what Bob Cousy had said, the first thing I immediately thought about was I thought that Bob Cousy was dead, man. I didn't even know that guy was around, because you never heard this man say anything. He never spoke up. He was just off somewhere enjoying his life, but he felt compelled to say something. That's what these guys attempt to do. It was the LeBron James fans. They're the ones that started with the tearing down of the past eras. They're the ones that started saying slow, unathletic white guys. I never heard that growing up. Never did I hear those kinds of things, man. And this is how we talk about players now, and we're talking about plumbers and taxi cab drivers. I don't remember hearing those things. This is what the LeBron James fan club did. They're the ones that continue to tear down the previous eras, man.
Absolutely. Y'all have anything else you wanna say before we get out of here? Or?
I'm good.
Good.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank the live chat, the super chats that came in from Pierre, Kali Young, and then Aiden Phoenix, I believe. For us, thank you very much. Thank you for joining and participating. Thank you for the call-ins from Jamal and Kevin. And thank you all on the panel for the dialogue. It was great, and I can't wait to show you guys my thumbnail for this, because I've been thinking about it for a little while. I think it's gonna be funny. For the tune in next week as we discuss our LeBron James fans' ageist cyberbullies, which I think we gave a little preview about what we actually think about that, but there's a lot more to talk on with that. Anyway, thank you all for coming. You all have any last words for the live chat or anything, or Hoop God? Anyway,
Good.
Robin, you got anything for the people?
Yeah, man. Much respect to everybody that participated in the chats, man. Shout out to everybody out there. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day, man. Shout out to you guys, man. Once again, another great live stream. And thanks, guys. You guys enjoy the rest of the day, man.
Yep, and for everyone, Michael Jordan fans are the best.